This is Stephen Foster on the occasion of Kit Hammonds' exhibition Ground Level at the John Hansard Gallery. Kit, this exhibition has come about as part of the Hayward Gallery's touring programme, where this is year 2 of a search for a curatorial idea through competition. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So all of these artists are addressing something that's related to areas of cartography and geography and so on, and all the other aspects, psychological and so on, around it. To what extent is that seen as a discipline? What difference do they make? I mean, we understand what difference they would make as art, but what difference does it make in terms of telling us about the world we live in, rather than the art that the artists make?
Some of these practices do put forward a kind of very contemporary view of how we react with the information streams and the visual data that we accumulate, but also it touches on shifts in philosophical positions from the individual into being parts of flows that Deleuze and Guattari, for instance, might suggest, that the body is only part of a mechanism, and a moment in history is part of a flow, rather than being this defined space. And for me, the map is kind of a metaphor that can be used in that way to talk about how we're part of a continuous flow of information, of food, of living together, which is a negotiated position and in some ways reactive to the world around us, rather than I suppose a more traditional view of being rooted, a very English view as well, but being rooted in a space and having ownership over that space.
It's interesting that a good exhibition looks fairly easily done, and easy to do, and this certainly fits into that category in the sense that everything looks like it belongs where it is, and it's very logical and very pleasant to walk through. What thoughts do you have on the whole idea of curatorship as a discipline, because it's become very, very fashionable?
When we're looking at curating as a discipline, there's a tendency to think in quite an intellectual manner, and certainly the curatorial discourse one reads is very politicised often. So the questions of display are ones which are sometimes left slightly to one side. They become more judgments. It's like, oh, that was well displayed or badly displayed. But the question of how labels fit with image, which sounds extremely dry and very academic, is actually something that started to interest me in the process of setting up exhibitions. And the display structure is an important element for me in whenever I'm making an exhibition. And so many of these works actually take pedagogic forms, and where they haven't, I've maybe emphasised those slightly through the addition of this kind of idea of displaying the work on display boards. So they have a visual association to a certain type of display which probably wouldn't normally be found in a contemporary art gallery. Other works, Ale Weissman's for instance, there's a direct relationship to a kind of traditional slide display. It is a lecture, if you like, as a slide display. Whereas Heath and Cale's, although that's also a kind of narrated slide display, seems to have a relationship to the home holiday snaps kind of slide display. Maria Teresa Alves has this kind of almost witness board feel. It's completely contingent. This is like information that hasn't been refined yet. And the fact that the labels are nearly always, in most of these works, part of the work, that the framing of the information around the work has been taken on board by the artist to some extent, is kind of a sub-thread, if you like, or leitmotif of the show. Because I think that's actually a kind of crucial curatorial area for discussion, and actually you can use this exhibition separately from its the mapping concept, if you like, to start to look at how different display functions give information differently.
This is absolutely central to us, because I think the gallery's own agenda, if you like, is to explore curatorial innovation and curatorial methods. So we see ourselves very much as almost kind of research-centric
Yeah.
curatorial development. I wonder to what extent one engages an audience in those issues and whether they matter.
Because of the nature of these works, where the artist is somehow narrating their own activity, I've chosen to sort of dispense of the label. But I think that also, I don't think it matters to understanding the work in this context. But I think there is a way of viewing, there's many ways of viewing any exhibition, I suppose, and certainly display and how information is displayed is a theme that runs through all the works here.
Well, it's certainly a fascinating exhibition. It looks very good. So we haven't, contemporary curatorial practice hasn't lost that essential area that it's got to be good to look at. And it certainly raises lots and lots of questions, not least of which are issues of display and curatorship. So we're very grateful to you. Thanks very much.
Thank you.